Yo, what is a crack, peeps? So listen, this is live at 11, and this is a special one we've got. That's why it's on a Thursday, because normally we do these on Friday. But we've got Tony Gentilcore with us to tell us a lot more about the coaching competency course that he's got coming up in Dublin in little more than a week. I mean, we're,
Oh,
9 days out?
No, I think it's 2 weeks, Sean. Don't scare me.
2 weeks?
Well, September 8th, so not this weekend. I don't think the following weekend, but the weekend after that, right? 2.5 weeks. So,
Right.
Yeah, September 8th. So, yeah, you scared me for a second. I was starting to have a heart attack.
Yeah, my calendar's off, dude.
My date's off.
So we've got still some time for people, and this is actually a good time to get on, because you've got an early bird at the minute where this is like $199 to see Tony Gentilcore going through the coaching competency stuff. For anybody that doesn't know, what this course is going to entail, can you give us a quick run through of the kind of stuff you're going to be talking
about? It's about coaching, that's for sure. It is kind of directed towards the fitness professional. So of course, personal trainers, strength coaches, physical therapists, anyone who works with anyone else in the capacity of improving performance, strength, speed, would be interested in this, because I do cover how I coach up certain strength training movements, such as the squat, the deadlift, shoulder-friendly pressing, and stuff like that. And I also cover assessment. So certainly how, Sean, you just broke the golden rule of
having my phone, didn't it? And
we're doing it.
Nice. Like she does this every thing, always does it.
So I'll also be covering assessment. So both upper and extremity assessment. And of course, when we're discussing assessment, that could be a whole day. So we'll really hone in on overhead mobility assessment. How do we improve that? We'll really hone in on doing a hip scour and try to lean into asymmetry a little bit more. I think as fitness professionals, we've been programmed to think that when we coach a squat, when we coach a deadlift, for example, that we have to be in a symmetrical stance where feet are evenly spread apart, toes are evenly spread apart, and then that's how everyone squats and that's how everyone deadlifts. However, I would argue that that's not the case. I would argue that we need to lean a little bit more into having individuals find their stance and what feels comfortable to them, because everyone is different. So I'll be spending a fair amount of time kind of arguing my case for that, and why I feel doing a proper hip scour and trial and error when we talk about squatting and deadlifting will behoove us as coaches, because I think that's going to better allow us to set people up for success. I'm not a fan of pigeonholing myself in the corner and saying this is the only way to squat, this is the only way to deadlift, and everyone has to do it this way, because that just sounds absurd. Knowing that there's so many variances and leverages and anthropometry and just everyone's anatomy in general. So part of the course will be covering that. And also there'll be a little bit of psychology involved. I think part of what makes, or well, not part, but a lot of what separates a good trainer from a great trainer are the soft skills of coaching. I'm an introvert at heart. I love doing stuff by myself, but certainly this is an industry that celebrates the extrovertedness and how you have to be like, let's go. I would argue that we don't necessarily have to be that all the time, and not all of our clients want that or need that or require that. So we'll be discussing that, and then we'll discuss how we make our clients more autonomous and competent. So meaning, how do we make our clients feel not stupid by using exercises that are too advanced for them at that time? I think that's a common mistake that some professionals make, where they put a barbell on someone's back and, okay, we're going to back squat, when someone's not ready for that. And of course, that is not going to bode well for that individual, and it's probably going to turn them off from training. So I think we need to have that discussion. And I also think we need to have a discussion of how the goal as a coach and as a personal trainer should eventually, your clients will fire you, not because you did something weird or off color, but because you did your job as a coach, you got them the results they wanted, you got them to their goal, and they are now competent, or I should say autonomous in the weight room. Like, I often joke that one of my goals personally is if I can get, a lot of my clients travel for work, or they go on vacation or whatnot, and they walk into a hotel gym. I want them to be able to walk into a gym and figure it out. I want them to be able to, I don't know if there's an old show here in the States from the 80s called MacGyver. I don't know if that was popular over there in Ireland. I'm talking about the 1980s version, not the current version.
Yeah.
I often joke that I want them to be able to MacGyver a workout. So if they walk into a hotel gym and there's a smattering of dumbbells and maybe a bench and maybe a rubber ducky and a roll of tape, they could surmise a workout after that. They could conjure up something to get an adequate workout in that day. So if I make my clients autonomous, where there's education, like it isn't just always me just say, do this, do this, do this. Some clients are a little bit more inquisitive than others. I want them to understand why they are doing certain exercises. And if I can get them to the point where they kind of know what they're doing, then that's cool. Not that I'm necessarily concerned with them. I don't want them to leave. But certainly I want them to understand, empower them in the weight room so they can kind of do their own thing if need be. So we'll be discussing a lot of that during the course too. So yeah, it's coaching competency. It isn't just about sets and reps and tempos and exercise prescription. I mean, honestly, like, that will probably bore most people to death when talking about that stuff, fitness professionals about that kind of stuff. So I do think the juice of the course is having a little bit more of a conversation about the soft skills of coaching.
Gotcha. So there's also going to be a lot of practicality in this, because I remember you saying, like, yes, there is a lot of the soft side, but you want to get out on the floor and actually get involved in some coaching, see how people coach, and you feel there's a lot of benefit to be gained from that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only speaking from my end of the fence, but I whenever I attend workshops and conferences, I find a lot of value when I can see a coach take a random person from the crowd, do an assessment, but then watch him or her squat, watch him or her deadlift, watch him or her do an exercise, and to listen and watch that coach break it down. Like, because, like, I mean, I don't have the keenest eyes in the world. Like, there's stuff I miss, and it's always cool to see another coach break something down. Oh my God, I didn't even see that. Like, that's really cool. And then how do I address that issue now? How do I address, if I'm watching somebody squat, how do I address butt wink, or that little duck under when someone squats, or if someone's deadlifting and they're, no matter what we cue them to do, they always round their back. What are some strategies that Tony uses that helps address that? What happens if I have a client whose left shoulder always hurts doing stuff going overhead? What is that? What's going on there? What do I need to look at? What am I missing? That stuff will address. So this is not going to be 7 hours of me just using a PowerPoint and saying, okay, here's the insertion of the supraspinatus, and this is what it does. I mean, that would not be at all cool. Yeah, there'll be talk about anatomy, but nothing like that. But it's like, okay, let's talk about this stuff now. Let's go see it in action. It's a room full of fitness professionals. Like, sitting for more than 10 minutes is torture. So I do think it's important to, when we talk about a certain topic, to now let's go practice it and actually put it into play, and have you guys do it as well. Because I do think that's a common mistake too. A lot of trainers, like, we read a lot of stuff, we watch a lot of stuff, we have all this knowledge, but we don't know how to apply it to an actual individual.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the goal of this day is too, is like, we're going to talk about stuff, and hopefully some of it's stuff you haven't heard before or didn't think about, or at least can appreciate my spin on it. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be like this fanatical, like brand new concept, because nothing is new. But what is new is my spin on it, and how I coach it, and my eyes, and my anecdotal experience with my clients and athletes. So I think that will bring a lot of value to the day.
Gotcha. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned assessment there, and I think that's something that at the minute in Ireland, especially, I've seen on one of the Irish Fitness Professionals Forum, there was a lot of talk about, hey, what do you guys do for assessment? Some guy asked, what do you do for assessment? And then there's about 10 or 20 people throwing in all these different, completely. One guy was like, do a 2K run and take your time. This other guy was like, oh no, I want to see him squat, and did it. But none of them actually asked what he was trying to ascertain from the assessment. Yeah. What is it you're trying to assess? And I think that's a very important thing, knowing why you're assessing and what you're going to do with the information. And I know you're going to cover that because, like, I'm sure you've seen, and look, I was this guy. I was the guy who didn't get a very good experience when he went and done his PT course, or didn't take as much away from it as he could have. And then when I was standing on the gym floor, actually trying to give exercises or write programs for clients, instead of doing what the client needed, I was trying to actually show off to other trainers, look at the complex shit I can do.
Yeah, that's a thing. This past weekend, I was in Chicago. I was teaching to a group of Equinox trainers, and then my wife and I did our Strong Body, Strong Mind workshop, which, she's a psychologist, so she spends half the day talking about psychology. Then I spend the other half talking about some of the stuff I'll be covering when I'm in Dublin. And I was kind of proud of myself because something popped in my head. Because again, this concept or this idea of assessment came up, and people asked, well, what do you do? And I think the more experience you have, the more broad your assessment is. Like, yes, I have a sheet that I work off of, that I have my checkpoints. However, there's usually stuff I want to look at. Yeah, I want to look at their hip hinge. I want to look at their squat, whatever. But every assessment's different. Depending on their injury history, their ability level, whatnot. But I also said, like, and this is the part that I was proud of. What's a common question we ask when we take an intake of a client or new client? What's a common and obvious question that we always ask as fitness professionals? Like, the number one question is, what are your goals? We always ask the individual, what are your goals? Which, again, is a very important question to ask.
Yeah.
However, I was like, you know what I think a better question to ask is when you're instead of saying what are your goals, because when you ask somebody what their goals are, it's always the same shit. It's like, oh, I want to be a little thinner, or I want to lose some fat, or I want to lose something from here. I want to lose 10 pounds. Or it's always very vague. I mean, I understand those are goals, but those don't really like mean anything. They're kind of subjective. Like, why is it always 10 pounds that people have to lose? It's very subjective. So I want to dig a little bit deeper. So what I've been saying of late with my new clients is, what are the daily demands or tasks that you ask of your body every day? Like, what do you need to get done? And for some people that sit in front of a desk all day, inflection, that is a demand that they ask their body to do all day. So that is very important information for me to know. Then you might have a woman who is postpartum with a 3-year-old, but also has a 3-month-old at home. So what are the daily tasks or demands that she is asking her body to do on that day? That's going to give you a lot of information as far as like what their program is going to look like. What do you need to address? What do you need to address in their program so they can do those tasks or do a better job of staying out of certain positions, throughout the day. So, when you kind of flip the question or kind of color in that fashion, where you ask what do you ask of your body every day? What do you want it to do? I think that will get a little bit of a better answer from individuals than just asking them what their goals are. Not only from a performance standpoint, as far as like, okay, here's what I need my body to do. Because then again, we have to talk about sports. I mean, some clients come in, they play certain sports, they're preseason, and I have to get ready for my sport. But then I just think as a coach, it gives you a little bit more insight on what their daily tasks are or movement patterns are for that day, which are going to give you a lot of help.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Well, here, I've just taken something from this conversation because
Yeah.
I
was quite proud of that. I was like, oh, you know what? Like, this is a better question to ask. So, yeah, you're welcome.
I think what you said earlier is that people give you a load of fluff when you say, what are your goals? They kind of tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and then if that's the ruler you're being measured on, I want to lose 10 pounds. I mean, like, look, if we're seeing a client even 3 times a week, the losing weight is going to come down to their being able to change their behaviors because they've put 10 pounds on because either they're overeating or they're maybe in Ireland, they drink a lot, So like, unless
what?
Genuinely, yeah, it's hard. So like, unless that shit changes, you're never going to out-train that. So I think by asking your question, well, what are you asking of your body? Oh shit, well, I'm slouched in this posture. It brings them to the realization of the withdrawals they're making from their body. They're not actually making any deposits. And then daily, they're going to see the benefits of the training.
Yeah. I think too, like I'm a little bit of a nudger as a coach in the sense that, when we start talking about goals and some people being very abstract, like I want to lose 10 pounds or this or that, or I can respect that. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting that or like rolling my eyes and I know you aren't either. That's not what you were insinuating either. But I am a little bit of a nudger where I do, because I like getting people strong. I think that's an important quality to have or to shoot for. And that is subjective too. Like, yes, deadlifting 2 times body weight is strong, but so is being able to, farmer carry this or do a flag stand or, it's very subjective. But if anything, when it comes to selecting a goal or choosing a goal, I do find if I can get the individual to gravitate towards a performance-based goal rather than an abstract goal of losing X amount of weight, I do find that just that little oomph, that little direction gives them, they kind of latch on to the process a little bit more. Like it gives them a little bit more purpose for their training. So they know why they are going to the gym every day. It's not just to lose 10 pounds, but it's because, I want to be able to do 10 body weight push-ups. I want to be able to do my first strict pull-up. I want to be able to squat my body weight X amount of times. Like if I can get them to latch onto something like that, man, that makes a huge difference. And I love it when the switch turns on. It happens all the time, male or female client, where they start off as the I want to lose X amount of weight client. And then they see that, from month 1 to month 2 or 3, that they're lifting stuff that they could not even fathom in week 1. And they think it's pretty cool. And then stuff they thought that was insurmountable now becomes a little bit more reachable, and they want to get to that point. And that to me is cool. And if you can get somebody to that where they kind of latch more onto performance-based goals, I do think it makes a profound difference on consistency. Because again, you hit the nail on the head. Yes, of course, I like an organized program and a well thought out program, and it should make sense. You should be able to explain why you're putting certain exercises in and where. But consistency trumps everything else. I mean, it's anything is going to work if someone is consistent. I think Eric Helms talks about this quite often in his program design manuals, where like if we were to write a pyramid of what the hierarchy of a proper program is, it isn't sets, reps, timings, exercise selection. That bottom portion of the pyramid is adherence. Someone's got to stick to the program before it's going to become effective. So, and that is where all the psychology comes in. Getting people to be consistent with a program is yeah, it needs to fit their goals, but there's a lot more involved with that from a psychological standpoint to get people to get to that point.
Yep. And look, that's a deeper coaching conversation we're having right there.
Sure.
I mean, in the beginning, I think everybody was like, because it's simple to program a weight loss goal. It's like, right, okay, we need to lose a pound a week. You know, I started off doing that, and then I realized very quickly, talking to coaches like yourself and guys who were experts in the field with like much more experience than me, that was like, if you actually just got your people to focus on this performance goal, these aesthetic goals would happen as a side effect
all the time,
don't they? So, like, I think that's what you're talking about is a much deeper coaching conversation that only experience of having years of clients and watch why they fall off the wagon would provide you.
Yeah, I do think that is kind of the evolution of every strength or every fitness professional is you learn that eventually.
Yeah.
But hopefully, when you listen to myself or other coaches like Dan John, Mark Fisher, Molly Galbraith, who talk about all this stuff all the time, like hopefully you learn it sooner than you and I did. Like, because I think we can both admit that it took us a while to get to that point. And I will say too that I think, not that I like to talk shit about myself because I'm self-deprecating like everyone else. But again, I'm not. The point of this workshop isn't to necessarily throw a lot of new stuff at everyone. I think that's overblown, where people go to workshops and they expect to be like overwhelmed with all this new information and knowledge. And, admittedly, like that is not going to be my goal. Like that, I'm very much a fan of keeping things simple and doing the simple stuff well. And there are a lot of fitness professionals that don't do the simple stuff well. And I do think that will help their business, because I think, on the side, like you and I and Jason have discussed, like, yes, it's important to talk about marketing. It's important to talk about how are we going to get clients in the door and SEO and all that stuff. I get it. Everyone's their own little business. I get it. However, if the product sucks, it won't matter. So, and that's kind of like the heart of the issue that I want to get at as well. Like if someone walks in your door because you had this flashy marketing, whatever, but they walk in and not only does your experience suck or your product suck, but the experience sucks because you're just an awkward individual who can't talk, who can't have a conversation with somebody about goal setting, and you're not listening to them, like you're making it about you. I think that this course will help with that. Like, again, doing the simple stuff well, and having a proper assessment where what you're assessing is what you're looking at is actually what you're looking at, and what you're asking the individual to do is what they're actually asking the individual to do something is what you're actually looking at. And again, if you don't have those systems in place, it doesn't matter if you have a flashy marketing campaign. If that makes any sense. I know I got a little tongue tied there, but
those 100%. I mean, that's my experience with this industry. Like I come from a more marketing and sales oriented background, and the biggest problem I had when I get into it was, like, I simply wasn't armed with the tools. I'm going to blame my education provider, and I'm not saying that they're all shit. Right? I'm not saying that because, like, that's what I do now. But I was sort of standing there at the door closed behind me, and I had this piece of paper that said Sean McGarty, personal trainer, and I simply did not have the certainty to do what it said on there, and I was like, shit, what? And then I realized that actually that's what I went for. I didn't really go to get a PT cert. I went to have the certainty to train people to get results, and that's what I lacked. And look, listen, I can market and sell anything, but like you're saying, people were leaving because I couldn't get them results because I wasn't good enough. That was my feeling.
Yeah. And I do think the key to the industry, and I'm not the first one to say this, so again, this is nothing profound, and I think you will agree with this, is that as a personal trainer, so say you are a personal trainer listening on this conversation, and you attend this course and you're a personal trainer at a commercial gym or whatever, we tend to put the focus on how do we get more clients? Like, what do I have to do to get more clients to see me or to walk in the door or whatever? And I would say, yeah, that's important. Don't get me wrong. But to me, the key to success is keeping the clients that you have. If you have a loyal base of 5 clients, 10 clients, 15 clients on a monthly basis, like paying you for your services, like that's going to be long-term success than worrying about, okay, I got this month, I have to do this many leads and I have to get this many people in the door. And if you're doing your job well, I think the greater litmus test for your business is, what's the loyalty of your current clients? Like, how long are they staying around? Because I think if you're doing your job well, they're staying around for quite a while. And that is the key. Because then okay, the product's good, because they obviously wouldn't stay around if it sucked. And the product is an amalgamation of a few things. Yes, it's the nuts and bolts of coaching and program design, but it is also the camaraderie and the rapport and making and instilling a fun training environment. That counts too. So all that is a conversation that we'll have on Sunday, September 8th. But again, you and I learned it the hard way, because I can look back early in my career and think that I would listen to my 25-year-old me would be listening to 42-year-old me and be like, dude, come on, but I'm like, listen, I'm telling you, this stuff makes a difference. And I think the day will provide a lot of value to upcoming fitness professionals, but certainly veterans as well. You're going to learn something. I mean, even if it's how to better coach a deadlift, you're going to learn something.
I remember having a conversation with Dan John about coaching, and he said, look, if I want to know if you're a good coach, the first question I'll ask you is what you just said there: how many clients are sticking around and how long they're sticking for. The second metric I want to know is if you're doing a good job, people will refer you to your friends. So how many referrals are you getting?
That's one, man. I'm sure you and Jason hammer that point home. Like, referrals are the best marketing.
Yep.
That is, of course, the best, the highest compliment. Like when you have a client refer their friend or their colleague or their family member. Currently I train 3 couples, not necessarily together. I mean, that's a whole nother shit show. When you train like a husband and wife team like that. But and I have a dad whose 2 sons come in, and I have it's yeah. I mean, I almost there's times I feel like I train an entire family, which is a high compliment. And of course they're referring their friends, and which is always nice too. But it's not rocket science, but it's certainly complex stuff that comes into play to make all of that happen.
Gotcha. Well, so here's one thing I want to ask you now, Tony, because a lot of the guys, like you've already mentioned, some are sort of new upcoming coaches. And there's a wide variance, and there's going to be dudes who gym owners, dudes who employ coaches. Like, would you say, what sort of advice coming from your experience would you give the young and upcoming coaches, or even coaches who are at this game a few years? What sort of advice? Because you said, if I could talk to the younger Tony, I would tell him sort of stuff. What would you say?
I would say there's 2 things that pop into my head. I would say you should go shadow and observe more. More veteran or coaches with more experience. It would never hurt as a younger coach to go for a day or a couple hours, reach out to somebody and shadow and observe him or her coach. I think that would be I did not do that as a young coach at all. A lot of it had to do with because where I lived. I lived in a very rural area. There wasn't a lot of access to other coaches, first of all. But so that comes into play. But now with the internet, and I'm talking to you from across the Atlantic Ocean, there's this did not exist when I was younger. So that kind of plays into a little bit. But go observe and shadow. And then 2, I think because we're so inundated with information nowadays, with the internet and everyone sharing information, we touched on this earlier. When you read stuff, you have to go apply it. You can't just be you can't just be in here Oh yes, like I know you have to be able to apply it to a real individual, and again that comes with experience. Um, so yeah, you got like when you go to workshops, when you watch a digital product or when you read a book, yeah, your clients are guinea pigs in a sense. But you need to be able to practice on them to find out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. There's always a little bit of trial and error. So there's way too many internet coaches nowadays who don't train people, and it's readily apparent because when you look at their program, you're like, there's no way in hell someone's getting this done in an hour.
Yeah.
It's like come on.
I see that in here a lot, and because like you mentioned the internet there, and it's a good and a bad thing, I think, just because of exactly what you said there. I remember there was a girl who was coming on the PT course here, and I was watching. She was training after the course had finished, and what have you. And I go, what the hell is this girl? She's got her phone, and I was like, what is it you're doing? She's like, oh, I bought this program online. I said, can I have a look at that? And it was like straight sets, about 15 exercises, and it was just, you know what I mean? I was like, you're gonna do all that shit there? Yeah. Holy shit!
You could be on a week program in a day. Yeah.
It would have took about 2 hours to do.
Yeah, so there's that. So but I think number one is just going to observe and shadow coaches, because it's always nice to see what other coaches do and how they coach and exercise, the cues they use, like how they troubleshoot, how they think on the fly. Just the interactions they have with their clients and their athletes. I think that's an important thing to watch. Where they put their hands, and greeting people with a smile and saying their name. I mean, honestly, like one thing that when I went to Mark Fisher Fitness, and Mark's a good friend of mine, like they instill on their coaches that when you're with a client, you say the client's name minimum of 3 times in the session.
Yeah.
Just something simple as that. That goes a long way. People like hearing their name. They want to feel like you're paying attention to them. And just little stuff like that. It just clicks. And it's like, oh, why didn't that makes perfect sense. So just observing and shadowing other fitness professionals, I think, would be number one.
Yeah, and for people, there's going to be people here who don't know Mark Fisher Fitness. Like his gym does millions.
They're in New York City. Yeah, they have 2 locations in Manhattan, and it's an eclectic group of coaches. Like it's very unique training environment, to say the least.
I think I remember the last time I seen him. I'm pretty sure. Does he still have a dildo wall in there?
Oh yeah.
He has a wall of dildos in the gym. Like, I mean,
coaches walk around in capes and underwear, and there's dildos on the squat racks. But it's serious training. I mean, they're talking about MELSIF. They're talking about PRI. It's serious stuff going down there, but it's just the training environment is a bit unique.
Yeah, that's the right word for it. No doubt about it. Like people try unicorns and shit. Also, but I mean that's their gig. That's their gig. Like
they didn't set out for that to be the case. It's not like they're like, oh, we're going to open up a gym. We're going to talk about unicorns and ninjas and dildos, and that wasn't their goal. It just evolved into that because of the coaches and the clientele, and the clients are very much involved in that process, as you're building a business. So and it just evolved to now they're just they crush it in Manhattan. I mean, Mark they're it's amazing. And if anyone ever goes to Manhattan, I always encourage them, go to Mark Fisher Fitness just for an hour and just watch. Like, you're gonna learn a ton.
Damn right. Yeah, so that's number one. What would be your second piece of advice to the younger 20?
Oh man, I would say pump the brake, because I do think a common mistake. I do think there's this thing of people feel like the gold standard or the pinnacle is gym ownership, and I would say pump the brakes on that. Like there are many well-known and well-to-do coaches in the industry who are commercial gym trainers, and they're doing just fine. So I would say that don't think that if you're year 1 or year 5 or year 10 in your career and you don't own a gym, that you're like this failure in the industry. I would caution you to not think that way. There's a whole, I think you can agree, there's a whole nother set of mind fuckiness that comes with gym ownership.
Yep.
and it's a whole slew of issues that if you're not up for it, like I don't want to make this sound like it's like this mental health like shit show. But there's just a whole nother host of stuff that comes with owning a gym that, you know, if you're just like, I mean, when I was at Cresey Sports Performance, I wanted to just be a technician. I mean, my job was to be a coach. I didn't have to worry about getting people in the door. I just showed up, did my job, and left. Then I was able to build my brand over the course of 8, 10, 12 years to the point where when I did open up my own gym, I had a reputation, and I had career capital, which made it a little less daunting. So yeah, I would just say number 2 is don't think that the gold standard in the industry of being a coach in the industry is owning your own gym, because I don't think that's the case at all.
Cracking. I mean, even Gary Vaynerchuk, he says this. He says like, not everybody needs to be this entrepreneur and build these big companies. In fact, some people should never do it for the reason you said, like, because it is.
And I even have a hard time calling myself an entrepreneur because I'm like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. You know, I mean, I am, but I think I forgot who I saw post it where I saw it on Twitter. I think it was like anyone who thinks being an entrepreneur is not a lot of work, don't become an entrepreneur. Because I think there's this whole other mindset of, you know, if you're your own boss, then you're going to be working less and you're going to do whatever you want. And I would say that that's probably the exact opposite of what an entrepreneur is, because it's not really a 9-to-5 job. You know, there's always something that pops up or needs to be done, or it's not easier.
Yeah, it's definitely made out to be way more glamorous than it is. Jesus, at the start you're cleaning toilets.
Yeah,
all sorts of shit. There's a lot less glamour, especially getting some business up off the ground, than it's made out to be. Like, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree.
So what's number 3?
Oh man, you said first off you started with 1. Now it's 2.
Oh, did
I? For a third one.
I was going to say 3.
I would say I think people need to read more. I think that would be number 3, and I think you need to be a more diverse reader. Like, I'm not just saying you have to read only business, and that's the only thing. I think the more diverse of a reader you are, I think that helps in all facets of life. Whether it's, you know, I mean, it sounds corny, but when I first started dating my wife and started going to therapy, not because I was dating my wife, but the 5 Love Languages was a book that I never would have thought to read, but did help me quite a bit as far as my relationships and especially with her. So just even stuff like that, just like, don't just read business, like read fiction, read nonfiction, read business books, read training books. You know, I'm usually reading 3 or 4 books at a time. I mean, but it's not like I'm like always in a book, but it's just, you know, I'll read a book before I go to bed. And during the day, I try to read something. So just being more diverse reader, because I just think it makes you a more well-rounded individual. And don't you say there's a 4th one, Sean?
No, there's not a 4th one. You're saying read more, like, and I see this on guys who are actually wanting to become PTs, and we're asking them, like, are you reading any books on fitness? And we always give them book recommendations when they book on a course. We say, like, these 3 books, you know, changed every coach in here, changed their lives in terms of, and there's always one on training, one on nutrition, one on like personal development, business, of course. I like behavioral economics. I love books on behavioral economics. So think like Malcolm Gladwell or Dan Ariely. Right now I'm reading the book Range by David Epstein, how being more of a generalist is actually the key to success than the like early sports specialization. That's a profound book. I mean, speaking of Mark Fisher, he routinely puts out like that's a guy, he's a voracious reader. Like he's a guy who has his nose in a book at all times. He's even said earlier in his career when he opened up Mark Fisher Fitness, his goal was to read a book a week. And he did it for years. So he'll put out lists of his favorite books all the time.
And they're not just business books. They're philosophy books. There's fiction. There's business books, of course. But I just think it just makes you a more well-rounded individual to have an eclectic taste in books and what you're reading.
Deadly, man. So I'm going to ask you now just to cover off a couple of wee benefits you think someone who is going to come in this course on the 8th. What sort of benefits? Like, what are they going to get? Individual payoffs for these guys?
Yeah. Well, I think they're gonna appreciate honing in on the simple stuff is the key. Again, my goal isn't to like throw a lot of new stuff at people. I mean, I think there is going to be stuff that people never heard of and see that they're going to think is pretty cool. But it's just to note that if you do the simple stuff and do the simple stuff well, you're gonna do a fine job in this industry. So I think that's going to be one main key of the day. And just also to appreciate too that to be a successful coach in this industry, it isn't just sets, reps, exercise, prescription. It is the soft skills of coaching, which I know, again, it sounds very abstract, but that will make sense when the day progresses. How do we better match the exercises we prescribe to the individual? That is soft skills of coaching. So and then two, just hearing me break down and watching me break down how I coach up certain lifts. I think that's going to provide a lot of value too. Because again, I find whenever I watch other coaches do the same thing, I'm always like in awe. So hopefully I can make someone else in awe, but of me. So I think that's going to be of value too. And it's and two, it isn't just sitting there listening to me talk. Like, I think one of the benefits too of this workshop is that you are going to be getting up and moving around, and it isn't just sitting there for 7 hours and watching the PowerPoint. Like, you're gonna put stuff in practice, which I think is a valuable component of a fitness workshop.
Gotcha. So these kids are going to have a better idea of the practical application of your stuff, so that Monday morning they are better coaches.
It's all about me. It's all about and what. So yeah, I mean, and I say that facetiously, but yes, I mean, I'm using my career and my ascent in the fitness industry. Here's what I feel has helped me get to where I've gotten. Here's what I feel that's helped me be a successful coach. I hope it helps you. I'm not saying it's the right way or it's the correct way or it's the only way, but I feel it's going to provide you with some value and tools to help you progress in your coaching career. So yeah, it's all about me.
Beautiful. Where can, just to give yourself a little plug here, Tony, where can people read more of your stuff? Because you're, as well as a voracious reader, you write a lot of material. You write for Teen Nation. You write, do you write articles, lots of articles for lots of different people? Tell us a bit about that.
So home base is my website. So TonyGentilcore.com. That's my blog that has links to all my articles and the podcasts I've appeared on. So that social media is there as well. But I would just encourage them to go to that, and then there'll be I think there's I don't know, over 2,300 blog posts. So if you want to search the old material, feel free. But there's a lot of stuff on there. Yeah, that's home base.
Gotcha. Okay, so home base.
TonyGentilcore.com. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
All right, TonyGentilcore.com. Yep. Now, what else have I got for you? I wanted to talk about this course at the minute. Now, I know we've around about 10 spots left to fill in this thing, and we're on early bird at $199. It is at the minute, right? And that how long is your early bird on for, dude? So that these guys.
We're gonna end it this weekend. So this will be the final weekend to take advantage of it, and then the price is gonna go up. So you have a few more days, but I think. Everyone likes to save money, so that's the point of the early bird. So yeah, we'll have it going through the weekend. Then after that, it's going to go up. So hopefully that will entice some people to sign on as soon as possible. But we'll see. But it's through the weekend, and we'll be good to go.
Cool. Well, I know that one of my own coaches he's so excited to go. He's ditching a wedding, especially for this. Like,
Nice.
yeah, he was like, I was supposed to go to a wedding on the Saturday night. He says, "Fuck that, I'm not gonna do that. And I'm just gonna come
Not
back."
going to the wedding. Oh wow, that's a high compliment.
You know, he's Irish, and you know what happens when Irish people go to weddings and shit, Guinness and.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to just skip that wedding just to make sure I don't miss Tony Gentilcore. Okay, man. So this is September 8th. Yep. There are still around about 10 spots left that we can fill in this thing. And if you act before the weekend, you're going to get this thing at $199.
Yep. Awesome.
Mate, I look forward to it. Cannot wait the
can't wait to hug it out, Sean. I'll give you a big hug when I see you when I arrive.
Ew, deadly. Okay, my man. Well, thanks for giving us up your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to post all the links that we spoke about down below so that anybody wants more information on Tony Gentilcore and the coaching competency course that is coming up. You'll be able to follow the links below and get your ticket. Cool. Thanks for watching, Dave.
Thank you. Bye.